Hi, I'm Miss Mavilia, and today we'll be comparing fractions with the same denominator. To start off, we have to remember what is a fraction. A fraction is one whole divided into several equal parts. For example, we have the numerator and the denominator. We know how many parts a whole is divided into if we look at the denominator, in this case, 2. And we know how many of the parts of that whole we have currently by looking at the numerator, 1. So if we look at this fraction, we know we have one of the two equal parts of the whole. Now let's compare some fractions. To start off, we'll start with the fraction 1/2 and we'll compare it to itself. We know because we have the same numerator and the same denominator that these are equal fractions. If we look at these fractions on a number line, we can see that again, we have set up this number line so it is equal. They are both set at 1/2. And we can see visually that these are equal. These are two equal parts. And if we click this box, we can see that it is very equal. We can also change the model to a circle so we can see visually if this was in a circle instead of on a number line that these are both 1/2. Now let's look at some other fractions. Here we're going to compare 1/5 and 2/5. We still have the same denominator, but we have two different numerators, which means they're going to be different sizes. If we visual representation, where we have the first bar set at 1/5 and the second bar set at 2/5, we can see on the number line that 2/5 is greater than 1/5. And if we show the comparison, we can see that 1/5 is less than 2/5. Changing the model to the circle, we see the same thing. 1/5 is less than 2/5. Compared, 1/5 is less than 2/5. Now let's compare more. This time we're going to compare 4/5 with 2/5. Again, we have the same denominators. We know all of the parts are split into equal pieces, but we have 4 pieces on this side and 2 pieces on that side, which means that 4/5 is larger than 2/5. We can see 4/5 is larger than 2/5, both in the circle graph and in the number line. 4/5 is greater than 2/5. If we use a different denominator, such as 1/4 and 2/4, so we're splitting it into 4 pieces instead of 5 this time. Each whole is split into 4 equal parts. This one has 1 of the 4 equal parts, and this one has 2 of the 4 equal parts. So, without even using the visual representation, we know that there are more parts of the 4 equal parts on this side, and therefore 2/4 is larger than 1/4. If we want to check just to make sure, we can still use the visual representation. 1/4 is less than 2/4. 2/4 is greater than 1/4. Now that we've had some practice, let's try it with a larger denominator, one that you might not be so familiar with. We're going to compare 3/10 and 5/10. Now, because we have 10 as the denominator, we know that we have one whole split into 10 equal parts. So let's use a visual representation to help us. 3/10, 5/10. I can see, especially if I click this box, that 3/10 is less than 5/10, especially because all of these number lines are even and evenly spaced. There are only 3 pieces on this line and 5 on this, so this is less than 5/10. The same goes for the circle model. 3 of the 10 pieces of the circle, or 5 of the 10 pieces of the circle. This one is clearly larger, so we know that 5/10 is greater than 3/10, or we can say that 3/10 is less than 5/10. Either way, we can see it on a visual map. So we know 3/10 is less than 5/10. Though you've had some practice, you should work amongst yourself in small groups. Using the online tool provided, use either circle or lines and compare multiple fractions with 10 as the denominator. You can also try other denominators if the teacher allows, but let's start with 10 for now. Welcome back. Great job. Now that you've completed both my lesson plan and working amongst yourselves, you're ready to take a small quiz just to double check that you understand everything. The teacher will provide the link for the quiz.